What is going on, everybody? BK voiceover here, and welcome to a little video I've been wanting to make for a little bit, but since the draft is coming up here on Thursday, I figured we could go over and have a nice discussion about Pete and John's draft record over their entire tenure. So what I thought would be fun, the NFL kind of does this for like the first round of drafts for teams, but they have this series called Hit, Miss, or Meh. And it's basically going through and analyzing each pick made by a team in the draft and determining whether or not they hit the ball out of the park, the dude was a fantastic player for that team, or whether they were a complete dud, or whether they were just average. And I thought it would be fun to go through the entirety of Pete and John's tenure, looking at previous drafts and taking a look at how well they've done in the past. So a couple of caveats that I'm going to preface this off with. I am not going to include the 2021 draft class in this evaluation for a couple of reasons. Number one, I don't like to fully evaluate whether or not a draft class is bad after only one season. That's silly. I like to give at least 2 seasons of playtime before I start to make a decision on whether they were great or busts. 2, I am only evaluating players based on how well they did in Seattle. So if Seattle drafted them and they played like crap, and then they went to another team and played really well, I don't care. I'm still going to call that draft pick bad because it didn't benefit the team in any way. And then the third caveat I'm going to preface with this is I'm going to also be considering whether they were hits or misses based on where they were taken. So if a first round pick played well but not like to a first round level of talent, I'll call them meh. Whereas if a third round player and a sixth round player play exactly the same, but the third round pick plays average, I will call the third round pick a meh, but I will call the sixth round or seventh round pick a hit, because I'm grading them based on how well they did, based on the expectations we had for them going into the season. So without further ado, let's get started. We are going to start off with Pete and John's first draft ever, and that was the 2010 NFL draft. And starting off, let's go. So first off, the Seattle Seahawks with the number 6 overall pick selected Russell Okung, tackle out of Oklahoma State. This was a hit. He ended up playing 6 seasons in Seattle, was Russell Wilson's blindside blocker for 4 of those, went to a Pro Bowl, was the consensus pick there, and he played really well as a left tackle for a while. Left Seattle after the 2015 season and caught on with a couple of different teams with Denver, the Chargers, and Carolina. But all in all, I would consider Russell Okung a hit. And then we had 2 first-round picks in this draft. So with the 14th overall pick, we took Earl Thomas, free safety out of Texas. And I don't think I need to explain how this one is a hit. Dude was absolutely insane at his time in Seattle. It does suck the way that his career ended in Seattle, but he was one of the cornerstones of this Legion of Boom defense that helped win us our first Super Bowl. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Pro Bowl appearances, was first team All-Pro 3 times, and finished 3rd in Defensive Player of the Year voting in 2013. This is a grand slam of a hit. In the second round, with the 60th overall pick, the Seattle Seahawks took Golden Tate, wide receiver out of Notre Dame. He was good. He was good as a second round pick. Started off a little slow in his career. 2010 and 2011 weren't great, but he did end up. He just got better every single season and almost got to 900 yards. And as a second round pick, I think that's pretty good. I'm going to call that a hit. Next up, we had Walter Thurman, defensive back out of Oregon. Walter Thurman, he was a meh, I would say. 1 interception, but was a pick 6. In the playoffs, again, didn't do a whole lot, only played in 1 game, but played his entire rookie contract out, had 1 really good season in Philly before calling it a career, so I would call that a hit. Or I would call that meh, actually. So that's 3 hits, 1 meh. E.J. Wilson, pick 127, defensive end of North Carolina. This was a big swing and a miss. Only played 2 games in the NFL. So, yeah. Cam Chancellor, yeah, he was pretty meh. No, I'm totally kidding. Dude was, and again, one of the cornerstones of this Legion of Boom defense. Was fantastic next to Earl. His career was tragically cut short due to that neck injury, but 8 seasons in Seattle, was a 4-time Pro Bowler, never made first-team All-Pro, but was second-team All-Pro in 2 seasons, played in 109 games, 12 interceptions, 44 pass deflections, 9 forced fumbles, 3 fumble recoveries, over 600 combined tackles, and 2 sacks. Dude was a monster. Bam Bam Cam. We love Bam Bam Cam in this house. So that's 4 hits, 1 meh, 1 miss. Next up, we got tight end Anthony McCoy out of USC. I would say that he's meh. He was a 6th-round pick. Played 3 seasons in Seattle. Didn't do anything his rookie season, but was a decent backup in 2011 and 2012. So I'll call it meh. Dexter Davis, linebacker out of Arizona State, with the 236 overall pick. Miss, played in 16 games, had 1 whole sack. Not great. And then last but not least, Jamison Cones, tight end out of Kent State. Played 1 whole game in the NFL, didn't record a catch. Had a tackle, though. So that's a miss. So all in all, for the 2010 NFL draft, we have 4 hits, 2 mehs, and 3 misses. Moving on to the 2011 draft. With the first overall pick, the Seattle Seahawks selected James Carpenter, tackle out of Alabama. James Carpenter was meh. He was drafted as a tackle, but he played left guard for pretty much his entire career, and he was really nothing more than average in his tenure. He is still in the NFL, I believe. Yep, he played his entire rookie season with Seattle, then went to the Jets, and then for Atlanta's, and then he's kind of jumped around the New Orleans and Baltimore. I think he's on the Saints again. Yeah, I think he's still on the Saints. But yeah, I can't call James Carpenter anything more than average, so he's meh. John Moffitt, guard out of Wisconsin. Miss. What else? KJ Wright, 99th overall pick, linebacker out of Mississippi State. KJ Wright was a hit. 10 years in Seattle, 144 games. He had 6 interceptions, 54 pass deflections, 11 forced fumbles, 9 fumble recoveries, 13.5 sacks, 941 tackles. Arguably had his best season in the NFL in the season before he went to the Raiders, but KJ Wright, solid hit. Chris Durham, wide receiver out of Georgia, played 1 whole season in Seattle, had 3 catches for 30 yards and no touchdowns. He was a miss. Richard Sherman, grand slam in the 5th round, played 7 seasons in Seattle, was first team All-Pro in 3 of those seasons, 4-time Pro Bowler, finished 5th in Defensive Player of the Year voting in 2013, 2nd team All-Pro in 2015. Absolute slam. Grand slam. And there's Castellanos out to left field. Mark Legree, defensive back out of Appalachian State, never played a snap in the NFL, so he's a miss. Byron Maxwell in the 6th round, he was a hit, I would say, for where he was drafted. Yeah, I think he was absolutely a hit for where he was drafted. Yeah, definitely a hit for where he was drafted. 4 seasons with Seattle as a 6th round pick. 5 years with Seattle. He had 7 interceptions for 29 yards, 21 pass deflections. 33 pass deflections, 4 forced fumbles, 4 fumble recoveries, 82 tackles. I think as a 6th round pick, absolutely he was a hit. Not like a Richard Sherman level of a hit, but he was still a hit. And then last but not least, Lazarius Livingston, defensive lineman out of LSU, played 4 whole games with the Seahawks his rookie season, had 1 tackle. He was a miss. And then Malcolm Smith, linebacker out of USC. Played his first 3 seasons in the NFL, was a Super Bowl MVP in 2013. Dude had, as a seventh round pick, had low expectations, and he exceeded them in every single way. So yeah, he was absolutely a hit. So going back through the 2011 draft, we had 5 hits, 1 meh, and 3 misses. Fantastic draft. Arguably the best draft in Pete and John's tenure. All right. Moving on to 2012. First overall pick, or sorry, not the first overall pick. In the first round, with a 15th overall pick, the Seattle Seahawks selected Bruce Irvin, defensive end out of West Virginia. Some people are not going to like me for this. Bruce Irvin was meh. He had a good rookie season, but never really met the expectations for what a mid-first round pick. So I'm going to call him meh for the time being. Bobby Wagner, in the second round, 47th overall. Dude's going to the Hall of Fame. Absolute grand slam of a hit. Russell Wilson, too, goes without question. Taken in the third round, 75th overall. Became the best franchise quarterback in franchise history. So both of those are slams. Robert Turbin never eclipsed more than 360 yards in his career. Wasn't really that dangerous out of the backfield. He was never anything more than meh. Never anything more than meh. Jai Howard, defensive tackle out of Florida. Played 2 whole games in Seattle. Did end up having a decent career with Kansas City, but did nothing with Seattle, so he's a miss. Corey Toomer, also linebacker out of Idaho, also did nothing. He didn't even make the roster. He floated around teams for a few years, and I think he hasn't played since 2018. So, miss. Definitely a miss. Jeremy Lane, for where he was drafted, was a hit. Definitely a hit. Yeah, I would say he was a hit for where he was drafted in the 6th round. So played in 70 games, 2 picks, 15 pass deflections, a forced fumble, 146 total tackles, 3 tackles for loss, and a QB hit. So I'll call that a hit. If he was drafted higher, I would probably put him down as meh. Winston Guy, defensive back out of Kentucky. He was just buried on the depth chart, never got anything going for him. Only played 2 games in Seattle. Floated around the league for a little bit. Played for Jacksonville and Indianapolis for a few years, but never did anything with Seattle, so he's a miss. J.R. Sweezie, drafted as a defensive tackle out of North Carolina State in the 7th round, ended up moving him to guard, and he actually played pretty dang well for where he was drafted, and because of that, I'm going to call him a hit. Definitely a hit. And then last but not least, in the 7th round, pick 232, the Seattle Seahawks selected him out of Louisville, Greg Scruggs. Played 2 seasons in Seattle, had 2 sacks, 2 years in Seattle. Played 14 games, 1 pass deflection, 2 sacks, 8 tackles. It was a miss. Didn't really do anything on the field. So in 2012, we have, out of 10 picks, 4 of them were hits, 3 of them were mehs, 3 of them were misses. Moving on to 2013. Arguably, I think this is widely considered to be the worst draft just in NFL history for most teams. And unfortunately, the Seahawks were not immune to how bad this draft class was. First of all, pick 62 overall in the 2nd round, they took Christine Michael, running back out of Texas A&M. He was just buried on the depth chart behind Marshawn Lynch and never got anything going. Played 4 years in Seattle, jumping back and forth between Dallas and Green Bay and a couple other teams. Had a 4.4 yard per carry average, which is fine, but that's not what you look for when you draft a running back in the 2nd round. 208 carries, 915 yards. Wasn't that dangerous out of the backfield. Only had 23 catches for 122 yards in 4 seasons and a touchdown. So yeah, Christine Michael was a miss. Next up, moving on to Jordan Hill. So Jordan Hill was fine for where he was drafted. He wasn't great. He did have 1.5 sacks, 5.5 sacks his second season. I think that one good season is what carries him. But I think I'm gonna call him a miss. Especially when you take a defensive lineman in the third round, you expect them to be a contributor. In the fourth round, we took Chris Harper out of Kansas State. Pick 123 overall. Never played a snap with Seattle. He's a miss. Jesse Williams, defensive tackle out of Alabama. Never played a snap in the NFL. He's a miss. Thorold Simon, defensive back out of LSU. He actually played 2 seasons in Seattle. He had picked in the 5th round. He had, in 2 years with Seattle, played in 11 games, 1 pick, 3 pass deflections, 13 combined tackles, no tackles for loss, no QB hits. He was a miss. Luke Wilson was probably your best player in this draft, and that's kind of sad, considering the fact that he played 7 seasons in Seattle, had 97 and don't take this the wrong way, I love Luke Wilson, but the fact that Luke Wilson was the best player in this draft is not a good thing. 97 catches in 7 seasons, barely averaged a catch a game, 1,208 yards, 11 touchdowns. Not exactly great. But he's meh. Spencer Ware, running back at LSU, played 1 whole season with Seattle. Played 1 whole season with Seattle, 3 carries for 10 yards. Caught on in Kansas City, actually, and I'm really happy for him there. But as far as with Seattle, he's a miss. Ty Powell, defensive end out of... Ty Powell, defensive end, never played with Seattle, played 2 seasons with Buffalo. He's a miss. Jared Smith, defensive end out of Harding, never played a snap in the NFL. Jared Smith, defensive tackle out of New Hampshire, never played a snap. Jared Smith never played a snap in the NFL. Michael Bowie actually played a few snaps in the NFL as like a backup right tackle when we lost guys due to injury, but again, yes. So, grand total from this guy, I'm going to be very mean. 1 no hits, 1 meh, and 10 misses. It's like there's no good part of this draft. No really good part of this draft, except for Luke Wilson. Moving on to 2014. 2014, Paul Richardson, picked 45th overall, wide receiver out of Colorado. He was meh. When you pick a wide receiver in the second round, you expect him to be a massive contributor. And for his first 3 seasons, he did literally nothing for this team. The only thing that keeps him from being ranked as a miss is that he actually kind of broke out in 2017. Got him a multi-year deal with Washington, but he never really lived up to that contract. So I won't give him anything higher than meh. Next up, we got Justin Britt. Drafted as a tackle out of Missouri, but ended up moving to center. But that's kind of why. So I'm going to tell you what I think. He's a meh, and I will not grade him as anything higher than meh. He wasted his first 2 seasons. He was drafted to play tackle. He was terrible at tackle. They moved him to guard to see if he could play better. He was terrible at guard. They moved him to center. He was a little bit better in 2016. And then 2017, he broke out, got a massive... I think he made the Pro Bowl. I forget. When did Justin Britt make the Pro Bowl? Oh, he was a Pro Bowl alternate. That's right. He was a Pro Bowl alternate at center in 2016, and that earned him a big 3-year extension. So, That earned him a big extension. And after that Pro Bowl season where he was Pro Bowl alternate, he was a league average to slightly above average center, and he was a second-round pick. So he's meh, and that's the highest I can go on him. Next up, pick 108 in the 4th round, the Seattle Seahawks selected defensive end Cassius March out of UCLA. This was a miss. Played in his 3 seasons with Seattle, played in 37 games, only started one of those games. 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery, 3 sacks, 55 combined tackles, 10 tackles for loss, 5 QB hits. Massively underperformed. Kevin Norwood, wide receiver out of Alabama. Played 9 games his rookie season. 9 catches, 102 yards, no touchdowns. Was cut during training camp the next season. Got on with Carolina, no catches. It was a miss. Next up, we got Kevin Pierre-Louis, linebacker out of Boston College. Actually ended up playing 3 seasons in Seattle, but never really saw the field a whole lot. Played in 34 games, mostly as a special teamer. Started one of those games, had a pass deflection, a fumble recovery, no sacks, 43 combined tackles, and a tackle for loss of QB hits. He's a miss. He's a miss. Jimmy Staton, defensive tackle out of Middle Tennessee State. Never played a snap in the NFL. He's a miss. Garrett Scott, pick 199 overall, offensive lineman out of Marshall. Never played a snap in the NFL. Eric Pinkins, defensive back out of San Diego State. Played 1 season in Seattle, only played in 6 games. Granted, he was stuck on a depth chart behind some amazing defensive backs. Played free safety, but look at who they had in front of him. He had Byron Maxwell, you had Cam Chancellor, and you had Earl Thomas. You're not going to get the start over them. But still, played in 6 games, had 2 total tackles his entire rookie season, and then was cut. So he's a miss. And then last but not least, we have Kiero Small, running back out of Arkansas. Never played a snap for the Seahawks. He's a miss. So for this draft class, in 2014, we had 2 Mez, those being Paul Richardson and Justin Britt, and everyone else was a miss. Moving on to 2015, it gets a little bit better. First up, with our first pick, we had Frank Clark at pick 63. Played defensive end at Michigan. And this was a massive hit. This was a big hit. Was pretty underwhelming his rookie season. Played in all 15 games, but never started any of them. He was kind of stuck behind Cliff Averill and Michael Bennett. Only had 3 sacks his rookie season, but did have 2 pass deflections and a forced fumble, 16 combined tackles. And then he took off. In 2016, 10 sacks. 2017, 9 sacks. 2018, he set his career high in sacks at 13. Good enough to get him franchise tagged by Seattle, and then he was traded to the Kansas City Chiefs for a first rounder, a second rounder the next year, and then a swap of 3rd round picks. So yeah, Frank Clark was a big hit. Total career stats in 4 years with Seattle. Played in 62 games, started 33, had an interception, 6 pass deflections, 8 forced fumbles, 4 fumble recoveries, 35 sacks, 136 total tackles, 36 tackles for loss, and 72 QB hits. Next up, with pick number 69 in the 3rd round, the Seattle Seahawks selected Tyler Locket, wide receiver out of Kansas State. Another massive hit. Has played his entire career so far in Seattle, signed a big extension this past off season. Has only gotten better ever since he came into the league. Finished 4th in Offensive Rookie of the Year voting, made first team All-Pro and the Pro Bowl in 2015. Made second team All-Pro in 2016 and 2017. And the thing is, he's only gotten better since then. This past season, he set a new career high in receiving yards. He had 73 played in all 16 games, 73 catches for 1,175 yards, and 8 touchdowns. And altogether in his career, he's played in 111 games, has 449 catches for 6,067 yards and 45 touchdowns. He has 40 carries for 265 yards and a touchdown. And again, he made first team All-Pro as a kick returner and a punt returner, not as like a wide receiver. So, anyways, fantastic pickup in the third round. Tyler Locket has been a cornerstone of this offense for years now. Terry Poole, guard out of San Diego State, never started in the NFL. He's a miss. Or never played a single snap in the NFL. He's a miss. Mark Lewinsky was good. He was never really more than average in Seattle, and then he went to Indianapolis and actually became really good. But yeah, I'm not going to call Lewinsky anything more than a meh. Ty Smith, cornerback out of Towson. Only played one season in Seattle, played in 4 games, and had 1 tackle. So, he's a miss. Obum Gwacham, defensive end out of Oregon State. Never played a snap in Seattle. He's a miss. Christian Sokolai, defensive tackle out of Buffalo. Only played 1 game in Seattle. Literally did nothing. He's a miss. And then last but not least, we got Ryan Murphy, defensive back out of Oregon State. Again, buried on the depth chart. Not really his fault, but he never made the 53-man roster. Played 1 season for the Giants, but never caught on anywhere. So the 2015 NFL Draft, we had 2 hits in Frank Clark and Tyler Lockett. We had 1 meh in Mark Lewinsky, and then all the rest were misses. 2016, pick number 1, our first pick 31 in the first round. We selected Germain Ifedi, tackle out of Texas A&M. I was struggling with where I wanted to put him because I don't know. I gotta think about this one. I don't know whether I should assign him as a miss or meh, because he wasn't good at tackle, and then, but he did play in a lot of games. But he was a holding machine. He was constantly graded poorly. He was a first-round pick. I'm going to call him... Germain Ifedi was a miss. I'm sorry. Germain Ifedi was a miss, and I don't think anybody's going to get upset with me about that. He was available, and that was good. He didn't miss many games, but again, wasn't great in the games that he did play in. So, yeah, Germain Ifedi's a miss. Jaron Reed, I'm going to say, is the only... I'm going to be a little ahead of the game. I think Jaron Reed's the only hit of this draft. I know Jimmy's like, oh, he wasn't... Not great his first 2 seasons. But 10.5 sacks in 2018. That was the year that Frank Clark went off. 2 sacks and then 6.5 sacks in 2020. He wasn't amazing, but as a second round pick, I think that he was pretty good. So I'm going to call Jaron Reed a hit here. CJ Prosise was a big swing and a miss. If you're going to take a running back in the 3rd round, you better be prepared for them to contribute. And he just didn't. He was always hurt. 2018, he played in 5 games. He literally only had 1 carry for -3 yards. That's bad. 4 years in Seattle, he had 65 carries for 264 yards, barely over a 4.1 yard per carry average. He had a few good games where he was like, he went off and nobody could stop him. But yeah, that's not enough to grade him any higher than he's still a miss. Nick Vannett, taken in the 3rd round, tight end out of Ohio State. He's a miss. He never eclipsed more than 270 yards in his career in a single season. And he's not and he can't block. He was a miss, especially when taking him in the 3rd round. Reese Odiombo, guard out of Boise State. He played he played some snaps at left tackle when people went down, and he was terrible. It's not his fault. He's not a tackle, but undersized. He was a miss. Quentin Jefferson, he was meh. I mean, he was good at rushing the passer, but again, he didn't really produce to the level of somebody who I would consider a hit. So I'm gonna call him a meh, which isn't bad. I think he's an average interior pass rusher, and I love QJ. Alex Collins, running back out of Arkansas. Has 3 seasons in Seattle, was never anything more than a 3rd string running back. Total in Seattle, in 3 seasons, he had 157 carries for 613 yards and 5 touchdowns. is a sub 4 yard per carry average in his career. That's not great. I'm going to call him a miss. Or no, I'm not gonna call him a miss. I'm gonna call him meh. Alex Collins is meh. Joey Hunt, undersized center. He was fine as a backup, and in the 6th round, that's really all I could ask for. I'll give him a meh. And then Kenny Lawler, never played a snap in the NFL. He's a miss. Zach Brooks, running back out of Clemson. Never played a snap in the NFL. He's a miss. So in 2016, we have 1 hit, 4 mez, 5 misses. So 1 hit in Jaron Reed, 4 mez in Quinn Jefferson, Alex Collins, Joey Hunt, and Jermaine Ifedi. And then 5 misses in CJ Prosise, Nick Fournette, Reese Odiambo, Kenny Lawler, and Zach Brooks. 2017. All right, let's start this crap show off. Malik Mcdowell, pick 35, defensive tackle out of Michigan State. Massive miss. Had an ATV accident before camp. Never played a snap in Seattle. The 1 year he did play in Cleveland, he played okay, and then decided to pull his pants down in front of a bunch of kids, and he's a piece of shit. So, bye. Ethan Posick, drafted as a center at LSU. Kind of a similar situation to Justin Britt. He played 4 years at center and LSU, and they thought, hey, let's move him to guard, see if he can play guard, because Justin Britt just had a great season, and we need him, and we just signed him to a big extension. First season at left guard was terrible. Second season at left guard was terrible. Third season, played as a backup at left guard, was also terrible. And then in 2020, they thought, let's cut Justin Britt and give Ethan Posick a chance at center. And he was actually, he was in the average to above average center. Similar in 2021, when he was actually healthy enough to start. So Ethan Posick, Ethan Posick's a meh. That's the most I'll give him. Shaquille Griffin, taken at pick 90 overall, cornerback out of Central Florida. That was a hit. Played his full rookie contract in Seattle, made the Pro Bowl once, only had 6 interceptions in 4 years, but had 48 pass deflections. Dude could get his hand on the ball and was like locked down in coverage, had a sack, 249 combined tackles, 9 tackles for lost QB hits. Shaquille Griffin was definitely a hit. Lano Hill, safety out of Michigan, did pretty much... Played his first 4 seasons in Seattle, but did pretty much nothing. So he's a miss. Nazir Jones, defensive tackle out of North Carolina, also in the 3rd round. Played 2 seasons in Seattle, never played in the NFL again. He was a miss. Damara Darbo, wide receiver out of Michigan. Played 1 season in Seattle. 8 catches, 71 yards. Forgettable. Miss. Okay. Next up, we got Rick Thompson. Safety in the 4th round, pick 111 out of Colorado. He was a miss. Yeah, he has 3 interceptions, but 2 of those were not because he made a play on the ball. That's because somebody else made a play on the ball, and he was just getting the picking. And he was just getting pickings. For every big play that he made, he also cost us a touchdown in a lot of... He cost us more than he helped us. And he wasn't that good when he started, to the point that he got benched pretty much and we had to trade for Quandre Diggs. So he's a miss. Mike Tyson, safety out of Cincinnati. Never played with Seattle. He's a miss. Justin Sr., tackle out of Mississippi State. Never played a snap in the NFL. He's a miss. David Moore, for where he was selected, I'm going to call him a hit. Never eclipsed more than 450 yards, missed pretty much his entire rookie season, but turned out to be a great wide receiver 3. Very clutch. Ended up finishing his first, 3 seasons in the NFL. He had 78 catches for 1,163 yards. 14.9 yards per reception, 13 touchdowns. Pretty good for a 7th round pick. I'll call that a hit. And then last but not least, in 2017, we got Chris Carson, running back out of Oklahoma State. Fantastic. Dude is absolutely a hit. Yes, he has missed significant time with injuries, but in the 2 seasons where he was healthy for the vast majority of the season, he was unstoppable. Back-to-back seasons where he had over 1,150 yards. On his career, he has a 4.6 yard per carry average, which is great. Total in his career so far, 769 carries, 3,502 yards, and 24 rushing touchdowns. Receiving, he's not a huge threat out of the backfield, but he can catch and run with the ball. He's a good yak guy. 107 catches for 804 yards and 7 touchdowns on top of that. So great pickup in the 7th round. So altogether in 2017, that's 3 hits, 1 meh, 7 misses. Moving on to 2018. First up, we got Rashad Penny, running back out of San Diego State. I'm sorry, guys. This is a meh. I don't care how good he was in the last 5 games of the season. When you are not, gosh. How am I going to look at this? I'm going to be nice about it. I'm going to give Rashad Penny a meh. He's proven that when he's healthy, he's a difference maker out of the backfield, but the problem is he just can't stay healthy. So, yeah, he's a meh. 3rd round, Seattle Seahawks select Rasheem Green, defensive end out of USC. He was never more than meh. He set a career high in sacks last year with 6.5. But he was a 3rd round pick. You'd expect him to be a bigger contributor. Will Dissly, tight end out of Washington in the 4th round. He's meh. He suffered 2 catastrophic knee injuries. He's not that athletic. He's got good hands. He's a good route runner. Did get a big extension from Seattle, so they see more in him than I do. But yeah, he's no more than meh. 76 receptions for 900 yards. And 9 touchdowns in 4 seasons. It's better than Nick Vannett, and he can actually block, unlike Nick Vannett. Trey Flowers, he's meh. He's meh. It's the best I can give him. He had one good season in 2019 where he had 3 interceptions, but he caused a lot more problems than he solves. So meh, 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 meh. Shaquille Griffin. Shaquille Griffin is a good feel-good story. But that's it. He was a good special teamer, but he didn't really do anything in his 3 seasons in Seattle. He started in 1 game, had a pass deflection, 1 sack, 25 total tackles in 3 seasons. It's not great. He's a miss. Michael Dixon is the only... I'll spoil a little bit. Michael Dixon is the only hit. Dude makes the Pro Bowl and the first team All-Pro his rookie season. He's been a fantastic punter for us. One of the few punters that I would draft again in the 5th round if possible. Jamarco Jones was a miss. Had issues staying healthy and just never could break into the starting rotation. Not that good. I'm glad he got a little bit of money from the Titans, but he's a miss. Jacob Martin, linebacker out of Temple, played 1 season in Seattle. I guess we were able to trade him to... After 1 season, we traded him to Houston for the Jadeveon Clowney trade. And his rookie season, he was fine. He had 3 sacks, which is okay for a 6th round pick. So I'll say he was meh. He was meh for where we took him. And then Alex Magoo, total miss. Never couldn't beat out Geno for the backup spot, and he's just looked terrible in every team he's played on. So in 2018, that is 1 hit, 5 mehs, 3 misses. Moving on to 2019, this is our second to last one we're going to look at. We'll start off real easy. LJ Collier and Marquis Blair are both big swings and misses. LJ Collier, terrible his rookie season, couldn't stay healthy. Came in his 2nd season, looked a little bit better, and then was a complete non-factor last season. Marquis Blair has made a couple of flash plays, but he has been suffering injuries, and even when he's healthy, he hasn't been that effective. He's a miss. DK Metcalf, goes without saying, this dude was a grand slam. Can't believe he fell all the way to the end of the second round. Cody Barton has been a miss. He hasn't been able to get on the field, and when he hasn't been that impressive. He's had a couple good games, but unfortunately, those are the outliers. Gary Jennings was a massive miss. Didn't even make the 53-man roster his rookie season. Phil Haynes, good in the couple games that he's played, but he's never healthy. So sorry, I can't grade him as he's a miss. Ugo Amadi, he's the best bad player that I've ever seen. I've never been so more annoyed last season at him than when to see a player get an interception and then watch Ugo Amadi get that tip ball interception against the Lions. And he could have run that back all the way for a pick six, but no, he has to fumble it, and it almost gets recovered by the Lions again. Luckily, it gets pushed out of bounds. But Ugo Amadi, I'm not ranking him any higher than meh. Honestly, he should be happy that I'm not ranking him as just total miss. Ben Burke-Irvin is a miss. He's short, and he is just a special teamer. Travis Homer is meh. He's a good pass blocking. He's good at pass blocking. He doesn't get a ton of snaps, but he makes the most of the snaps that he does get. DeMarcus Christmas is a miss. Never played a snap for Seattle. John Ursua, one total catch in a regular season game from John Ursua. And he's been injured or on a practice squad the rest of the time. So he's a miss. So for 2019, we have one hit in DK Metcalf, two mez in Ugo Amadi and Travis Homer, and then everyone else was a miss. All right. Last but not least, we have the 2020 NFL Draft. 8 picks in this one. First up, we had Jordan Brooks, linebacker out of Texas Tech. I think this was a hit. Needs to improve in coverage, but by the end of last season, he looked just as good as Bobby Wagner did on the field. Darrell Taylor is a meh. I mean, I know he looked really good. He had a really high pressure win rate last season. But he did miss his entire rookie season with a leg injury. Did have 6.5 sacks in his first official season, but he did kind of fall off towards the end. So for the time being, I'm not going to rank him as anything higher than a meh. Hopefully he proves me wrong. Damian Lewis. Excuse me. Damian Lewis is a great example of why you need 2 years in order to really determine at least whether a player is a hit, miss, or meh. Because if I was just going off of his 2020 season, I would have said that he was a solid hit. Made the all rookie team at right guard, but 2021 they moved him to left guard when Gabe Jackson was out due to injury, and he looked bad. He just looked really, really bad. So I can't grade him as anything higher than a meh. Colby Parkinson, drafted in the 4th round, 133rd overall tight end out of Stanford. He has the size that you covet in like a great red zone target. He's just not being used. 2 seasons, he has a grand total of 7 catches for 49 yards. He's just not getting the ball, and I'm sorry, he's a miss. For the time being, hopefully that changes. DJ Dallas, running back. He has a 3.7 yard per carry average. That's just as good as Alex Collins, and he's a 4th round pick. I can't grade him as anything higher than meh. He's just meh. Alton Robinson. Alton Robinson. He had a good rookie season. Pretty much disappeared this past season, but I don't think that's his fault. I think he wasn't getting the snaps that he needed. He had one of the highest pressure rates of any defensive lineman on this team. So He needs to get more sacks, needs to get on the board, but I think he's a meh for where he was drafted. Freddie Swain, for what he is, he was drafted in the 6th round. He's a wide receiver 4. I think he's meh. And then last but not least, we got Steven Sullivan. He was a tight end out of LSU. Played in one whole game with Seattle, and it was not at tight end. He played at defensive end. Didn't make it to next season. Played in 3 games with Carolina. No stat line. So all in all, we have 1 hit, 5 mez, and 2 misses. So going through that list, our totals come out to, since Seattle, and not including the 2021 draft, the 105 players that Seattle has drafted from 2010 to 2020, we have 22 hits, 27 mez, and 56 misses. Now that sounds kind of okay until we go and take a look. 13 of those hits happened in the first 3 drafts. Since then, the 8 drafts following 2010, we had a total of 8 hits, 9 hits, 21 mez, and 47 misses. That's a lot of misses. Anyways, hopefully if we just go ahead and take the averages, we have 8 picks. So if we just want to take a look at this, we are going to average 2 hits in this draft, 2 misses, and 4 misses. So hopefully we get more than that. But yeah, that's kind of my analysis of the previous drafts. Hopefully we can improve that going forward. But yeah, just a quick analysis of where we've done in the past. So hopefully the draft goes well. We will be streaming this week on Walk the Hawk channel. Be sure to go and subscribe there for our coverage. And I will see you guys there when we stream the first round of the draft here on Thursday. Have a good one, everyone, and go Hawks.